Hello, hello, hello. It's good to see you all. Welcome back to my weekly live stream talking about data and how we can apply it in our businesses to make better business decisions and ultimately build strong, healthy, sustainable businesses. I am Dr. Julie Allig, aka the Data Diva. Welcome back to those of you who have watched before. Welcome if this is your first time. If you are joining live today on Friday afternoon, drop in the comments there where you're tuning in from. I love to see where the members of my community all are tuning in from. And if you're watching this on replay, drop a comment also. I'd love to see where you're watching the replay from. I am here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Pacific, except next Friday, which will be, if you're watching this in real time, that will be September 29th of 2023. I won't be having any live stream next Friday. As always, you can watch this on LinkedIn or you can watch this over on my YouTube channel. My handle over there is at NHDataDiva. So this week, what I wanted to talk about is AI. And in particular, I wanted to talk about generative AI. Now, there's a ton of AI or artificial intelligence that has been going on for decades now. And defining exactly what you mean by AI, sometimes it gets confusing because people sometimes don't use very precise language. Now, the kind of AI that I wanted to talk about today is the kind that really has spilled over from kind of the techies, the data geeks, into the regular business ecosystem, and that is generative AI. These are the large language models like ChatGPT, like Bard, like Llama, like Claude. All of these large language models or LLMs that are all text based, right? So they're called generative because you input something, it might be a question, might be some images or something, and the output that this LLM, right, gives is text based and it creates some sort of content. It's not always text based. It can be images, it can be music, it can be other types of creative content, but it's all content. And it's a lot of fun, right? Using some of these, especially when we talk about the image generators like Dolly or some of the others. You can generate pictures, you can talk with people, fictional characters with historical characters who haven't been alive for quite a while. But there's got to be more to it than that, right? Because there's so much hoopla over this. I mean, if we think back, ChatGPT was released to the public, right, in this form less than a year ago. It was November of last year. So we're looking here at 10 months, 10 months of using these generative AI models. And if you talk to people, not necessarily me, but others who are much more deep into the neural networks and all the different sorts of research on AI out there, you'll hear them say things like game changing, absolutely revolutionary, similar to when the internet started. Um, and so that got me thinking, what are we using this for? If it's so game changing, if it's so revolutionary, what use is it in our businesses? And so I think we've all seen that there are lots of use cases for ideation, for brainstorming, right? I need to, for example, if I'm a college student and I need to write a paper about Sophocles, write me a paper about Sophocles, something like that. It certainly will do that, right? It'll generate that content for you. Marketing and copywriting and ads. Um, they use, there's a lot of use cases for being able to generate headlines, being able to generate entire articles. In fact, some publications have gotten gotten their gotten in a little trouble for generating entire articles using AI, um, for rewriting, for translating. So, a lot of these text based creative content uses, and those are all well and good. Believe me, those are great. I also certainly use some of the generative AI tools out there that are available to the public when I need to summarize a thought or translate a thought into fewer words. I can be wordy. It's my academic background. But it got me thinking, what else? If this is supposed to be revolutionary, if this is supposed to be such a game changer, I mean, as much a game changer as the internet was, and I'm old enough to remember when the internet got, started up and all, how can it help us with understanding our data, with running businesses, with that sort of thing, apart from writing better sales copy, writing better website copy, that sort of thing? And so I thought, well, there's got to be a lot of case studies out there. I'm sure I'll find them. Well, guess what? I've been looking and there's really not a lot yet of concrete, day to day, down to earth case studies, apart from copywriting, marketing, that sort of thing. And also, here, apart from the parts of AI that are the more analytical tools, which are the ones that I'm the most comfortable using and the most skilled at using, right? I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about kind of AI for the rest of us. How can we use this in our businesses to run our businesses better, to make more profit, to increase efficiency, to cut down on waste? All of these things that we all want, but they're mushy, right? They're very abstract. How do we do that? And if you know me by now, I'm a pretty, as one colleague put it, I'm a pretty pragmatic person. So I love these concepts. I love these great ideas. But at the end of the day, okay, how am I going to use this? And so that's the challenge I set out for myself this week. I wanted to find 5 concrete ways, apart from the ones we've talked about, that businesses can use AI, this generative AI, to be able to improve their profits, improve their data analytics, that sort of thing. And so I came up with 5, and I'm curious if you are watching this in real time, if you leave a comment how you might be using Gen AI right now in your day to day, or if you're catching this on replay, drop a note in the comments below how you're using it. Because again, I'm not seeing a ton of examples out there. That doesn't mean there aren't any. And I've actually come up with, from all of the research I've done this week, I've come up with some that are, I think they're pretty good. I think they're pretty interesting. So the first one that I am going to throw out there and see what y'all think of this is it actually helps you to analyze your data a lot better by removing programming barriers. And so, what do I mean by this? So, for example, let's take Microsoft Excel, which there are different estimates of how many people actually use it around the world. Generally, probably 1 in 8 people globally use Microsoft Excel. That's a lot of people. And as I've been using Microsoft Excel, and I've been using it since I was back in grad school, um, I am the first to say that I am not using it to its full potential. Absolutely not. There's more that I could be doing. There's a lot of flexibility with the formulas and with that sort of thing that you can do within Excel. The problem is, at least for me, the problem is that there are so many. It's difficult to remember how to write those formulas, right? What comes after the equal sign in the formula bar there? How do I use the correct syntax? Did I forget a comma? Did I forget a true or equals false or something? It's a lot. And, when you or I are in the middle of the day and all we need is to do some task or some sort of analysis, and oh my gosh, you get just stopped because you can't figure out how to get the code, I'll call it the code to work in Excel. It's frustrating and you waste time. And there are a lot of times when I've had to just say, I can't figure this out. I don't have the time to figure this out, to go through and parse my, all the symbols and everything. And so I just go do it the long way, which ends up being even longer because I spent all that time trying to figure out the way to do it more efficiently, more effectively. Um, now all I need to do is use a generative AI and tell it what I want it to do, and it spits back out the code that I need in Excel. And if it's doing that for me, it can do that for you or the people on your team. And it really speeds things up. So let me show you a quick example of what I'm talking about. I'm going to take that off and I'm going to show you this. So here I happen to be using OpenAI's tool, ChatGPT. I could be using Bing. With its integration, I could be using a number. I just happen to be using this. And here you can see what my question is that I sent out. I said, I need to calculate annual cumulative return on stocks that are in my 401k. The data are in an Excel spreadsheet. I also want to graph the data, and I also want to forecast out 3 years of returns. Write me the code and the formulas to do this in Excel. Again, this isn't the best prompt in the world, certainly. I'm trying to just give this as an example, even on the fly. Here we go. Step 1, import it. Step 2, calculate the daily returns. And it even tells you what columns each one is going to be in. Copy this formula down, right? Calculate annual cumulative returns, and then create a graph, highlight the cells, go to the Insert tab, and then to forecast future returns, you can use Excel's built-in forecasting functions. And it tells you right there how to do it. It gives you, there you go. And Bob's your uncle. So I say that because this is something that is admittedly, it's on the easier side, right? But then again, it's really not. It's not. This is something that, cumulative annual returns, make me a graph, that sort of thing. That's not necessarily easy to do, especially when it's, the middle of the day. You're trying to, you're doing five other things, right? So I think that, again, removing those programming barriers in my mind, that is something that is really going to save time. And I think it's under thought about. How's that for good English for you? I think it's under considered. I think people don't realize just how facile this can make you with some of these software tools. It's a way to upskill people and upskill them quickly because you can do that in Excel. And then if you don't understand what the heck the formula is doing, you can say, okay, great, generative AI computer neural network. I don't understand what this does. Walk me through, explain this like you were going to explain it to a 12-year-old or something like that, and it'll explain it for you. Now, of course, you need to double check things, right? Right. That goes without saying. That's kind of the caveat for all of this. But this gives us and our teams the ability to upskill pretty quickly and really start using and making use of the full variety of things that these pieces of software that we have can do. You can do this with Tableau. You do it with Power BI. You can, have it write code in Python and in R and in C sharp. It's really, really a helpful. And I think that not enough of us in the business world are thinking about it this way because so many people, for whatever reason, don't talk about just how much time it takes to try and get things to work. I call it my banging my head against the computer time. So the second way that I think is really creative to be using these generative AI models is to build prototypes. And now you might be thinking, okay, sure, I can use the generative AI to do the market research. It'll be good up until 2021 in the case of ChatGPT 3.5, right? Because it doesn't go past 2021. But what else can I do? Well, you can actually tell it to build schematics. You can say something like, I want to create, let's say you're in the fashion industry, some new purses or wristlet purses or something, or backpacks or something. And I'm going to 3D print it. I want it to be these measurements. I want it to be this color. I'm going to use this fabric. Give me the schematics. It'll do it. It'll spit it out for you. And you can, again, I'm making it sound more simple than it is, but it will give you those schematics and you can use a 3D printer or some sort of laser. If you're laser cutting, if you're in more of like a manufacturing or an engineering kind of field, you can do it. So that sort of thing where, especially when we're thinking about prototyping actual physical objects, a generative AI tool can assist you with that. And also there are examples that I have seen of architects doing exactly this also, practicing architects using generative AI to help redesign, reconfigure different buildings or parts of buildings or some of the systems within buildings to be more environmentally friendly, for example, something like that. So that's another thing that I think when we think about, generative AI being used to create, pictures of astronauts riding unicorns in space or something, that kind of creativity. Sure, we've got that, but we've also got this creativity with actual real world objects that we could do. The third that I came up with is for our friends in HR. So, one of the things that generative AI is good at is summarizing, um, mentoring, coaching, sort of thing. And so I was thinking earlier this week about having difficult conversations and how it's usually HR, human resources, that is tasked with having those difficult conversations with employees. Um, they're difficult for a reason, and it always helps to role play, I would say, beforehand. So, using generative AI and being very creative with your prompts that you use. So, explaining exactly what your role is, exactly the role of the employee, exactly what the, the issue is, and then also including in your prompt something like, I want to make sure that the employee feels respected. I want to make sure that the advice or whatever that I'm giving is aligned with best practices in the field. Here are 5 examples of best practices for broaching these sorts of topics with employees. And then you can actually, through using a really nicely crafted prompt, you can have the generative AI come up with conversation starters, help you work through potential objections, that sort of thing. So, just like in my courses that I'm going to be teaching later this fall, I'll be showing the students how to be better at writing prompts in order to get the instruction, the coaching, the explanations they need out of generative AI. Can do the same thing within the workplace itself. And so I don't think many people are thinking about something like that, using it for that sort of role playing. Could also use it, again, thinking of difficult conversations in the workplace. Maybe you want to negotiate for a raise. And again, being very precise and creative in how you write the prompts will help you, and you can figure out exactly what the best language is. You can tell it, I want it to draw upon, again, best practices in the field, and in particular, these 3 ways of negotiating, something like that. And it'll go out and do that for you. And so that I don't think is a way that a lot of people are thinking of it. But again, a very creative way. Um, the fourth is streamlining workflows. And here, this is one that is, I'm pulling from my own field, right? Data analytics. 60, 70, 75% of the time spent on any data analytics project is easily spent on cleaning the data, wrangling the data, merging together data sets, handling missing values, recoding, transforming the data, creating new variables. That's all before you get to the actual analysis part of it. What if we could cut that down? What if we could use generative AI to assist us with writing that code that would actually do it? Or, for example, in ChatGPT 4, they have code interpreter where they've got functionality where you can actually upload a data set and have it do the work for you. You can have it merge the data sets together. You can have it, you can tell it, I want you to code anything missing as a 99. I want you to exclude all the 99s from this part of the analysis, and it'll do it for you. Let me give you an example. Now, maybe you don't have huge data sets. Maybe you don't have, oh, where did it go? Um, I am so sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties here. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I wanted to talk to y'all about, what if your um, what if you're using, again, let's go back to Microsoft Excel and let's go back to talking about, you don't have GPT 4.0, right? So you don't have, because it costs money, it's not the free version. Let's say you've got 3 worksheets in Excel and you need to merge them together and you need to do some data cleaning, you need to do some transformations. How do you do that? Again, and I tried this, that's what I wanted to try to show you, but that'll have to be for another day. Simply going through and telling the generative AI tool, saying, yep, I've got 3 spreadsheets. How do I merge them together? This is what they look like, right? And so you can kind of describe it. One of them has columns, they're all in Excel, could be Google Sheets, right? They've each got 15 columns, each of them has 100 rows. How do I merge them together, right? And it'll show you the steps. And then you might say, how do I figure out where the missing values are? How do I code the missing values? So at each step of that, you can cut down the time and you can get nice bite-sized information and prompts from the generative AI about exactly what you need to do for the next step. And it's going to also give you the code. And the code, you can just put it right in, put it right into Excel. In my case, copy it right into R or into Python. You could do it in Power BI. You could do it in any of those that you're using. And so that's definitely something that is going to speed up. And then the 5th, so we've had 4, here's the 5th one. Speeding up onboarding. And again, here I'm thinking again of kind of the HR, but this is more in terms of employees. And what I was thinking about is, at least at this point in time in the United States, many firms, especially manufacturing firms even, are having a difficult time keeping employees. And so they have problems with retention. They need to bring new people on board and they need to upskill them pretty quickly. So think about some of these. Think about a worker on the factory floor. Think about a worker who is using a machine. It's a pretty complex machine. Maybe it's a computer run. a CNC, maybe a computer numerically controlled machine, something like that. Maybe they don't have a lot of experience with these, right? And so by using generative AI, letting it uh, uploading, ingesting um, standard operating procedures for that. Also giving it access to previous data about the different runs and everything for that machine. Then the new worker who needs to get trained can say, okay, what's the first step that I need to do? This is my task. And what should I do first? What are the safety um, considerations that I should take? How can I optimize the output of this process? This process takes 10 minutes. How could I get it down to 8 minutes without sacrificing quality or safety? Something like that. So, that again is a pretty creative way to be able to use this as an assist to the human to figure out how to better operate the machinery, how to optimize. And that is my fifth. And we are at a little bit past 30 minutes. So I am going to say thank you so much for joining today. Again, we talked through those 5 creative ways that businesses could be using generative AI in their day-to-day. They can use it to remove programming barriers, build prototypes. They can role play for difficult conversations. They can streamline workflows, especially data cleaning, so that you can get to the analysis part faster. That's my favorite. I know you're surprised. And then also you can speed up onboarding, right? So especially helping with the worker crunch right now. If you have questions, leave a comment below. I would love to hear what you think about this. If you want to hear more about ways of using data in your business, hit the subscribe button so you're notified every time a new video is uploaded. And mark your calendar. I go live on Friday afternoons at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, except for next week, September 29th. There will be no live stream next week. I will see you in 2 weeks. And until then, go forth and analyze.